I am Beverley Prevatt Goldstein, and I am glad to be here to tell you a little bit about myself and about the Windrush. I have been in Newcastle for maybe over 20 years, and I've been in England for over 60 years. So I am a seasoned resident and citizen. I came to England when I was 11 years old in 1962. So I am categorized as part of the Windrush Generation, which is the people who came to England between 1948 and 1971. These people came from all over the world, but we focus perhaps particularly on the people who came from the Caribbean, who sailed on the Windrush boat. So the Windrush boat sailed to England in 1948, bringing travelers from the Caribbean. Most of them had actually come to England and worked and volunteered in the Second World War. They then left. They found in the Caribbean there was a lot of hardship, a lot of poverty, because of course enslavement and empire had sucked the Caribbean dry. So many of these people decided to return to England, and they did this in 1948 on a ship called the Windrush. Now, it wasn't the first ship that brought people from the Caribbean, it was the third ship. But when it landed in Tilbury, there was a big fanfare and newspapers. So people associate the Windrush with the Caribbean people coming in 1948. Interestingly, Caribbean people have been in England and in the Northeast for generations. I am doing a walk where we talk about Fairfield from St. Kitts. He was here in the 1790s. We've had people in England, we've had doctors, black doctors in Newcastle, in pit villages in Durham since the 1920s. So there have been people contributing to England as far as we can remember. And of course, many people gave their labor unwillingly in enslavement, contributing to England. So the Windrush was just one point at which people arrived in England. They were here before, and people have continued to come and contribute massively to England. You would know some of them. You would know John Barnes, the footballer. You would know Lenny Henry. I just saw a fantastic film, a play, when he did a one-person show talking about the Windrush experience. So, what is the Windrush experience? When I was growing up, as I said, I came here when I was 12 years old. I came to stay with an aunt and uncle, and this idea of people coming to stay with parents, to stay with relatives, or following them, was very much part of the Windrush experience. The idea of coming with high hopes of contributing and making a living, and finding yourself meeting racism and poverty, again, very much part of the Windrush experience. And the experience of people who came before Windrush and who came after Windrush. What was interesting about Windrush was that and what followed was people were invited to come. Not only did they have to come because of poverty, but many of them were invited to come. And they did valuable work in the hospitals and in the railways. One of my uncles who came, he worked on the railway. He was a professional pharmacist, but you couldn't get a job as a professional pharmacist. He worked on the railway and contributed to the railway. So you have this a generation that came and contributed like the generations before and like the generations after. And you will see many pictures as you wander through this wonderful building of some of the people who have contributed, who either came around the Windrush time or are the descendants and children of those who came on that boat. Now, growing up, like many other people, I survived the racism and the poverty due to the support of a good family and good teachers. I went on to Oxford, I became a social worker, I became an academic at Durham University, I thrived and I survived despite it, like so many who came before, at Windrush, and after. But why Windrush became famous? Because I had never heard of it. I didn't come under Windrush. Not many people did, only 800 did. I came on an aeroplane on BOAC, dressed in my finery when I was 12 years old. So I had never heard of the Windrush. But what made it famous was the Windrush scandal. And this was a scandal where people who had come, often as children, on a parent or a relative passport, came to Britain, worked 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years in Britain, knowing they had come as British citizens, and then found out that they were not supposed to be British citizens. They were not allowed to be British citizens, having contributed for up to 60 years and paid their taxes. Why was that? Because the laws had changed and continuously changed, and because the documentation, which would have shown that they came at that time, was destroyed by a Labour government. And then the draconian legislation that said they had no rights to be British, no right to stay here, that stopped them working, that stopped them renting, that drove them into poverty, drove some into suicide and death. That was, of course, a later Conservative government. But what you're looking at is governments which deprived people of their right to be British, which they had, and sent them into poverty, physical and mental distress. This had happened earlier. In one of the people on our walks, in 1962, this had happened to him. Because this was not new, this way of treating black people. It was part of perhaps the enslavement and the empire. But what we have to remember is that we have survived. We have contributed. It is only because of the Windrush scandal, and the compensation still hasn't arrived for many people. Many people have died. But the Windrush scandal is what brought the whole idea of the Windrush Generation into people's minds. I am the Windrush Generation because I came in 1962, which covers it. But I am really a black woman and a Trinidadian. I am just happen to be associated with the Windrush, which suits me okay. But we must remember, we have been here. Since Roman times, African people have been here. We have been here, we have contributed right through, and we will continue to contribute. So listen and learn, because together we are making this country perhaps better than it is. We will want to make it what it could be, what it should be. A home for all, and home where there is equality and respect for all. We've got a long way to go, but perhaps together we can make a step in the right direction. Thank you.